welcome to a special conversation with two very eminent people. Vidushpat Singhania, India's number one sports lawyer, a dear friend of mine, and someone I always go to when I need to understand or clarify my concepts about an issue that is plaguing the sports ecosystem. And Ashok Namboodiri, again, an absolute industry stalwart who has been part of multiple leading platforms in the past and has been a very dear friend and advisor to Revsportz from day one. The issue that we are going to talk about today and understand a little better is what is the impact of this possible ban on online money gaming. What impact will this bill have that the government has brought? Already passed in the Lok Sabha, now just a matter of time perhaps before it becomes an act. Could this wipe out the entire fantasy sports ecosystem? Will it lead to lakhs of jobs? What about economics? Is there a larger story? Is it morality versus or ideology versus economics? Is the government trying to project itself as the protector of India's societal fabric? What is at stake and what is the possible impact? Vidush, I'll start with you. Can you lay it out for our listeners and viewers? What is at stake and what does it all entail?
Sure. So the online real money gaming market, and this would be daily fantasy providers, be it the rummy providers, be it the poker providers, and other real money casual gaming providers, right? Because like a Winzo or a MPL would have a number of games on their platform, which they would be offering for real money. Now, all of that has been banned by the government of India at this point of time. And that would mean that all the revenue, all the FDI, all the jobs, and all the sponsorships and endorsement that they were giving to the sports industry will now almost go to zilch. Because the main principal money was coming from real money gaming, and now that has stopped. What is there is that they will still be allowed to charge, say, a platform fee, something like a software subscription model, like you have, if you use a Microsoft, or if you use Adobe, or you use something, you pay a certain fees, right, for using that software. So to that extent, if they are giving a platform, they will be allowed to charge that kind of a fees, but not the fees that they were charging, that you come play this and then compete with amongst your friends, and then whoever is a winner would get a prize. That will not be allowed. But the fact that they can still charge a nominal platform fee for offering their platform for the purposes of social gaming or casual gaming.
So just before I go to Ashok, Vidush, if I say the industry, to what extent will it shrink? Because ultimately revenue was from real money gaming. So may I say that it will shrink about 80-90%, this entire poker, rummy, fantasy combined?
Yes, at least 90%, because the casual gaming will not be more than 5 to 10%, because that is going to be a very, very small portion of the revenue.
Ashok, taking from what Vidush is saying, this is not an Indian trend. This is a global trend. If you see China, if you see the US, California, for example, if you see Europe, India is now also sort of getting big time into it. How do you see this as a kind of global trend against this whole quote unquote, trying to spoil the youth, the new intoxication, the new drug, etc., the way it is being projected globally?
Absolutely. It is definitely a global trend. Like you mentioned, countries like China, Australia, parts of Europe, the US have done this in terms of bringing in regulation around real money gaming, in some cases as far back as 20 years ago. So it's not something new. I think the debate really here with regard to India is that are we going into regulation in line with global trends, or are we going into much more stricter controls? The degree of strictness is what really matters in terms of the legislation. Like Vidush mentioned, there are going to be impacts in terms of the industry, but as far as the government is concerned, I would really sum it up by saying that perhaps they are looking at curbing the addiction economy, if I could call it that, versus boosting the attention economy. That might be a good way to sum it up.
Vidush, how do you see this going forward? I mean, is it just a matter of time now that it becomes an act, the bill becomes an act, or do you see there can be some other interventions? Will there be any kind of thing that this can still get stopped?
Yeah, I think the government legislative intent is extremely clear. They push this bill through the Lok Sabha. Likely it is going to pass through the Rajya Sabha also very quickly. And the president is going to give the assent. When it is only time when they will have to notify it in the gazette on when it becomes enforceable and when they appoint the authority for that, if to the effect to enforce this. I think that is the only thing that will take a bit more time. But I don't see this as a long play in the sense that it will be enforced. The government intent is very clear and it will be enforced very, very quickly. The second aspect obviously is that the online gaming companies are likely to then go and challenge this bill or when it becomes an act in either a high court or a supreme court on the constitutional validity of this, that where does betting and gambling fall, whether it falls within the state subject or the center subject. Well, online falls within center, but that is online. The core or the pith and substance, I would assume, of this activity falls within the ambit of state, because all these companies have been relying on that exception that games of skill are excluded from the ambit of the Public Gambling Act, right? So they are saying that the Public Gambling Act occupied the field and an exemption was carved out in the Public Gambling Act for the games of skill. Now, ideally, it should have been a state government. Like now, you have Sikkim, which already has online betting licenses only within the state of Sikkim, but they have the online betting licenses in Sikkim. Same with Nagaland, they already have the online betting licenses in Nagaland. Now, even Goa, they have online lottery. Similarly with Meghalaya, they have online lottery, and it has been running for a long time. Now, while I don't think lottery should be covered, because lottery is a separate act, lotteries act, lotteries rules, they have not been repealed under this, and it has been functioning under a state license for a long time. But this act is again not clear. Horse racing. Now, you being from Calcutta, horse racing and betting on horse racing has been in existence for hundreds of years already. And then there are these kiosks which are all linked to the race club. And they are also, in the sense, linked through digital devices, right? So if you go to a kiosk, you can place the bet and then everything gets back to the tote. So is that also banned? So that is, I think, the unclarity, in my opinion, which exists.
So is there a legal recourse then that this can be challenged, you reckon?
Yes, the constitutional validity of this act will get challenged. At least the gaming companies will definitely challenge it. Whether they're successful or not is a separate issue. I think the challenge will definitely come.
But in the morning you were telling me that, like, when a bank collapses, for example, you see a kind of an immediate syndrome, and I'll go to Ashok again after this question, that you are already seeing, or we will see, people withdrawing big sums of money because now they say, hello, this industry is in crisis, हमें तो पहले आपका खुद का पैसा बचाना है, उसके बाद देखे जाएंगे अगर ये लोग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल वैलिडिटी में जीतते हैं कि नहीं जीतते हैं वो तो बाद में देखेंगे, पहले तो विथड्रॉ कर लो. Are you sensing that can happen and the industry will have a seismic kind of shock? Vidush?
Of course, I think like banks, right? When people start withdrawing money, because now this is in the public news, every player will think that I don't want to keep my money with this company, because as soon as the ban is effective, which will be very soon, my money will get stuck. So everybody will withdraw their money, and that will seriously affect the cash flow of these companies. So that, I think, is going to have anyways a very serious impact on them. In any case, they will be preparing to wind down their operations or take it to the minimal, because everybody knows that the act has come, the legislative, the Lok Sabha has passed, Rajya Sabha is passing it, so it's just a matter of time. So everybody will anyway start winding down their operations to a large extent.
Ashok, when you have also been involved with sport hands-on and sponsorship, if you see T20 leagues, if you see ISL, if you see local sport, if you see any other sport, you will see any of these companies, a Dream 11, an MPL, a Windsor, Parimatch, etc. All of these companies, do you reckon it will be a huge blow now for the sporting ecosystem and the sponsorship ecosystem, including athletes who are all either endorsing one of these companies or one of these apps?
Absolutely. I think besides the broader issues in terms of a job loss associated with a regulation like this, as well as the impact on GST, that is for sure there. Advertising, if I'm not wrong, the number is approximately 6,000 crores that brands in this industry really give rise to. that's going to be a big blow. It's going to put to test the future of a lot of regional leagues, a lot of smaller leagues that exist that have grown, explosively in the last decade or so. It's really going to question the viability of some of these leagues.
Why do you think the government is doing it, Ashok? Because they are losing money, or they will lose money, whether it is tax money, whether it is whatever. The ecosystem will be impacted. Why do you think they are? And then they pushed it very swiftly. Cabinet passed it. Next day, Lok Sabha, it will get Rajya Sabha, and as Vidush said, soon it will become an act. It's a very quick process. Why do you think the government is doing it?
So I think it has to do with protecting the moral fabric, the Indianness of the society. I think it's not really about gambling. It's really about curbing the addiction that impacts the future of a lot of youngsters today. It's something that's been prevalent globally and is a real issue. The question is, how do you choose to address it? The government is basically saying that tax revenue today can be foregone versus the social capital that will be building tomorrow. And I think that's a big statement that the government is making in this regard.
Vidush, same question or similar question. I mean, at one level is this whole moral fabric idea, but the number of companies that I've spoken to over the last couple of hours, the bigger ones, they tell me that whoever is taking FDI, that we don't do anything illegal, we don't do anything which can be called gambling. Again, that game of skill argument, why is it that and the government did not even consult us when they formulated or pushed the bill through? That is their argument, and they say that this is extremely unfortunate and unfair. How do you kind of respond to that kind of a stance that the industry is taking?
So, the government, the MIDI, actually came out with these rules and IT rules in 2023, from what I remember, where they talked about the online real money gaming, and they said that we want to regulate it through a self-regulatory mechanism. And those rules were published; they are still in effect. And they said that we will set up a self-regulatory body. The government will recognize self-regulatory bodies, which will then address these evils of manipulation, bots, black money, KYC, and those kind of norms. Now, the government or the industry were expecting further consultations, recognition of SRB coming of an authority. So I think the industry was always to the extent that there should be a regulation and a strict regulation, so that at least the illegal and the dubious operators are kicked out. But the industry never expected that the axe will fall on the entire industry, that all real money gaming will be banned. And I think that came as a surprise, especially the kind of build-up and a narrative right from 2023 onwards.
The second point, and before I give Ashok the last word, Vidush, is they are saying that this will make people go to illegal platforms, which will, online, the dark platforms rather than established players, that people will migrate there. So in effect, you are going to push people to do things illegal. Is that a possible fallout?
I hope so. I hope not so. Sorry, that's what I meant. Is because illegal platforms are really something which are dealing in cash, stealing tax money from the government, exposing players to very bad elements of the society, right? So we hope that that does not happen. And illegal gambling is also going to get banned. There's going to be an authority which is going to enforce and take action against them. So there is going to be an authority which is going to take action against them. Now, how effective that action is really something that the time will only tell. But so we hope that
something like one bet. One bet, for example, it's illegal, but it's still available in India.
It should not be. There should be. It is not legal. So when something is illegal, somebody is running it illegally, and therefore it has to be banned. This act bans them as well.
So last question for you before I close with Ashok, Vidush. So at least in the near future, are we seeing a cataclysmic or a seismic shock for the sports ecosystem, at least for the smaller leagues, some leagues, individual endorsers like players, footballers, cricketers, everyone, because this was an easy source of money, at least for the last few years?
There's definitely going to be a shock in the sense of revenue from sponsorships or endorsements, because all this money will go out of the system. But I'm sure first there was edtech, then there was gaming. So there will be other people who will step up and come and sponsor sports at the center as well as the smaller league level. And the government itself, in the sports sense, has been pushing for corporates to adopt one sport and PSUs to adopt state level leagues and state level associations. So I think that push will have to be further encouraged, that please the legitimate corporates will have to now come and take over, because this money has gone away and we still want India and the sporting system to thrive.
Ashok, final question for you. When I was speaking to these companies, they were like, I sensed alarm, I sensed real concern and fear, and they said we have to pivot to something else, because some of these are giant corporations. Take a Dream 11. People are saying 2-3 lakh jobs will be lost. What do you think can happen? Do you think this entire system will collapse? Or, as Vidush said, it can be challenged constitutionally and some remedy will come out? Because some people say, something will happen, this entire thing cannot collapse like this, some intervention will happen, etc. Where do you stand on this? Do you see this as a definitive blow, or do you see a middle path coming out?
So I think the forces will act, and I think that somewhere there will be a tempering of of the regulation that will happen. So a middle path is what I would really go in for, which would basically be looking at responsible regulation. Perhaps my mind goes to when the mutual fund industry was trying to promote themselves, and they were talking about educating the public in terms of what the benefits of that investments are. I think there is going to be a whole lot of education that's going to happen. The issue is that this industry has grown disproportionately, and therefore there's going to be a correction. But I think it is going to temper in terms of a middle path rather than a complete collapse.
Let me end there. As both my experts have said, there are some real impacts of this. The sporting ecosystem will suffer. Industry money will go out. How this money is replaced by other conventional sectors, we have to see. But make no mistake, this is a larger story. It is not just one regulation. There is ideology, there is morality, there is politics, and that's being posited against economics and addiction. Will the government win? Will the industry fight back? Will it be a constitutional case? We don't know, and that's not our job. Our job is to raise the questions and put it in front of our viewers, and two best people just did that. Ashok, Namboodiri, Vidushpat Singhania, thank you very much for joining me. I don't think we have seen the last of it, and hopefully we will have another conversation when things grow more. But for the moment, Vidush and Ashok, thank you for your time.